Oh, hello. On Bravo.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Here comes the participants. Hello. I made the mistake of one of our first webinars playing classes playing a pump up song. And it was Eye of the Tiger. And then we got blasted when we posted it on YouTube. And they're like, you can't post this.
Yeah, that's completely.
So we'll just hum this time.
Yeah, we'll hum a song that is public domain. You're a grand old flag. You're a high flying flag. That's probably not. I'm going to get hit up by that person's ancestors and be like, you owe us royalties.
Terrible, terrible choice.
Hi,
Thanks, Craig.
Craig.
Good morning, everybody.
I'll be fidgeting.
Hari learned what a fidget spinner was today.
I've known what they are. Actually, I didn't live under a rock. I just didn't know what they felt like. The weightiness of this.
They're pretty.
It's very satisfying.
Fidgety
to hold in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I will now need to buy one.
Okay.
I'm in the market for fidget spinners. If anyone has a favorite brand.
I found that at a kid's toy store, and we were purchasing something for Nina, and I saw it and I said, okay, I think I could use this on my desk, and I have not put it down since.
I need all of those, the button ones, the squishies.
The poppers are not as satisfying for me. I know that's all the rage right now for the kiddos, but okay, I am attempting to double check that there's nothing that is in the chat. I'm still waiting a little bit. People are still joining. We got about half of our group.
So excited by the number of people here right now.
I know.
I mean, welcome.
Sunday morning.
Incredible that you guys want to wake up and talk mocap with us so early on a Sunday.
I mean, I've been up for hours.
Kids. Having kids is its own delight.
Oh, there's so many friends
I know nothing
here. Okay, hold on. I need to expand this so that we can see all these names.
Hi, Marco.
Properly. Hi, Marco.
Hi,
Hi, Nikita. Hi, Craig. Hi, Nicholas. Hi, Stephanie. Nadine. Andrew. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Michael. Oh, it's very late there, isn't it?
Jasper.
Julia.
Amy.
Alicia.
Hi, Amy. We were just talking the other day. Good to see you.
I guess we gotta always do Sundays because this is fun.
Seems like a killer time.
My kid probably doesn't agree, but she's having a blast. She's fine.
She's being extra cute.
All right. We'll still give it like one more minute.
Good
and then
morning.
We'll ease in.
Ooh, someone's having mimosas. I'm so excited.
I know, right? I treated Hari this morning to a Dunkin' Pumpkin Spice Keurig cup.
They really missed the boat on the wordplay of dumpkin. I'm just mad at that missed opportunity, but it's fine.
I'm sure someone in marketing was like,
America runs on dumpkin. Correct. It does. Marketing was like, please get out of here. Leave. You're fired. I love awkward play on words. Sir, this is a Tim Hortons. You're killing me today.
Hi.
Hello.
Well,
Chelsea's got her coffee.
It is pretty good considering it's not as good as like getting a real PSL, but it does the morning trick. So, and I got my new work in protest mug from Anti-Racism Daily.
Ooh, is that a website?
It is. It's a Patreon and a website and an email list that
not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
But it should be.
But it's a great resource, and every day there's something new to learn. So.
I love my Patreons, guys.
Yeah,
I love Jen Hale's Patreon. I'm a
nice
joiner of that.
That's smart.
And there's a lot of really great conversations, live group conversations, just content she posts. Also not a sponsor, just a killer actor.
Yeah,
and a good person.
Okay, well, it's 10:06, so I guess we should get started because a lot of what we wanted to do today was like answer questions. So I have a little presentation because that's how I like to do things to keep my brain straight in these things. We'll do a little learning, and then we'll get to questions. So feel free to put them already in the Q&A if you want to start them up, or as we go along during any of the terms or anything like that, throw them in there. And then like 10:40 or so, hopefully we will make it maybe even before that, to Q&A and questions. And then we're also live on Twitch, so tell your friends. Okay, so let me share my screen with this button. The world of motion capture. So first and foremost, if you don't know about Canva, Canva, not a sponsor, it's a place where you can make fancy presentations and look like you're a graphic designer, even if you have no skill whatsoever, which is where I make my fancy presentations. So I just like to say that because I think people think I have a lot more skill than I have in this department, and I'm just a good researcher.
And a good credit giver.
And a good credit giver. I want everyone to have all the tools. That's where I do my social posts as well. All right, why us in the world of motion capture? So I'm Bianco Schoeffling. I am a casting director and the COO of the Help Network. I started my career in games, and actually I started my career, period, at Treyarch, the Call of Duty developer, as a receptionist. And then I moved into the sound department when I graduated and started on mocap stages, playing back audio and recording audio and miking up actors and dealing with whatever crazy thing was happening that day, all the way until now getting to cast for performance capture and helping with all sorts of parts around it. Westworld was one of the last, no, that's not true. Medal of Honor VR was probably one of the last things that came out that I can talk about, as well as I didn't add League of Legends Pentakill, which if you haven't seen, and we'll talk about it again at the end, is a live virtual concert that they did that was all mocapped and crazy and amazing. And
it's so recent.
Very recent.
That was very fast, the turnaround.
And then Hari is new to motion capture, and she'll give you a little background on her.
Hello, I'm Leigh. I'm the director of outreach at the Help Network, which means I get to work with these wonderful folks all the time. It also means that I've learned a lot as soon as I hit the ground running about motion capture. I've been assisting Julia with some casting for a couple of years now. So I've been lucky enough to work on some games projects and know some of you folks who are here visiting us today. But I'm an actor, I'm a filmmaker, and a writer and director. I kind of like to do it all. I say I'm the Veruca Salt of entertainment. I really just like want to never have to hedge any of it because I like being busy and I like being creative. So I'm currently directing VO and motion capture for games, and I can't talk about any of the things I've done with that because they won't be out for a couple of years, but I've had some exciting, really amazing credits in the last year. It's been a really fun year for me, and I've learned a lot, and I'm happy if I can share any of that with you, and then eventually I can share what those credits are as well.
I have a major performance capture credit that by the time it comes out, it will have been like 3 years since I cast it.
Exactly. So
we do what we can. Okay, so that's us, and a great segue into NDAs. I know that most of you will think that this is probably something you've heard 1,000 times. If you've ever taken a class with me, you've seen this specific slide. I include it in everything I do because it's so essential to games in general, and motion capture is no different. They're confidential, massive operations that require a high level of participation in keeping identifiable informations like storylines a secret. A little segue from that is like, even when I worked on a Spider-Man game based on a Spider-Man movie, we still didn't even know the storyline stuff about the movie in order to integrate into the game. So there's secrecy on every level. It's pretty much the opposite of a film hype machine that talks about projects in early stages to build buzz. You'll never find something early on IMDb, and if it is, they're working to get it off. Games have no secondary market in most cases. So once something's released, it's usually in a bargain bin and not in your living room a couple years later. There's no like syndication like television. So there are games that exist for longer periods of time, like a League of Legends that's been online for 10 years, but they're just adding content. They're not necessarily replaying old things. NDAs are common to be expected part of the process. You should assume you can't post or talk about your involvement until release, but ultimately you still should get permission. You should be aware of representing a character or IP on behalf of the client. Some clients are super into this, others don't want it at all. It's a great thing to discuss once you're in the door. Just understand your client's needs and their expectations and be a good employee.
An ambassador.
Yeah,
I think just like if you know that at this point, everything we do online reflects anyone that hires us, just as it does with every industry at this point. So just being conscientious of that when you live your life online.
And then I kind of had to recently add this one, which was breaches in these agreements are not just breaking a legal binding document because you've signed an NDA, but you're also putting the casting director and the signatory or production company at risk of breaching their agreement. I don't know if you know, but a long time ago, there was a Netflix Nintendo deal, and apparently there was a leak and that went away completely. That's no joke. Like we can lose jobs if an actor that we hire leaks something. So it's more than just yourself. Next is understanding the terms. Okay, so again, I apologize if some of this is basic for some of you. I find it's important to make sure that we all have the same understanding at the get-go. And I think one of the most kind of common things that are misused are exchanging a lot of these terms. So let's start with just motion capture. We also call it mocap or mocap. Those are two things that sound the same. The process of recording, they're spelled different. The process of recording the movement of actors or animals and using that information to animate a digital character model. This doesn't include recording the voice of the actor unless it's for reference. So sometimes dialogue recording is provided in advance and you mime or act out those scenes, and sometimes they perform and a voice is added after the fact. So they may record it for reference, and then the actual voice actor will ADR over it. Facial capture is the process of recording just the face and the facial expressions. This can be on a mocap stage. It can be in a booth, in a voiceover booth, when recording the dialogue. Sometimes there's dots all over the face, and sometimes there's just a camera and a lot of lights. Sometimes there's makeup. There's a few different technologies and a lot of different ways to do it as things grow. And then finally, performance capture or PCAP is the process of recording the entire performance, including voice and facial capture, and it also can include fingers. And that is where the actor can actually bring their entire essence to a role, in voice, body, movement, everything.
And just to break up really fast the PowerPoint of this all, I just wanted to point out that knowing each one of these things can also help you prepare for that day that you get one of these jobs. And one thing that I think would be really helpful that I wouldn't have known about had I gone in to actually direct this is that, like she was saying, they could be playing the audio for you and you could be acting it out, either by doing sync with your mouth or acting it out with your body. So great thing to do. Turn off the dialogue, turn off the sound on your favorite TV show, a Sopranos, a Marvel movie, turn it off and act it out, or keep it on and learn the lines and literally do your absolute best to lip sync those lines. And it's just like TikToking. Like if you can be a great lip syncer, that's something we're looking for regularly for work. So yeah, it's a skill you can hone at home, and you're going to feel like this might be really pointless. The day you get there and you get that job, you're going to be so glad you spent time doing it.
Especially with games, the game development process is iterative. It changes and technology changes as we're creating a game. So they may choose they may choose to add facial capture to something. They may need to add it later because they were unable to grab it when the original things were being made. And so there's all sorts of combinations of these things that are happening. Mm-hmm. And again, you don't have to know each of them, but being familiar with the terms so that you're not lost when you see a call for them is super helpful. Okay, so this is just to break things up a little bit. I love dogs. These are cute dogs. The Last of Us mocap dogs. They also did a lot of motion capture with horses. That was really, really, really cool. not just actors in the mocap suits. I'm gonna do a really I'm gonna really quick check the chat just to make, okay, cool.
Did someone say what is mocap?
Okay, additional terms. So face over is exactly what Hari was just talking about. This is when we already have the lines and an actor is basically lip syncing over it and we're capturing your facial capture. And this does typically happen in a voiceover booth. A lot of times we will record your audio for reference so that we can sync easily. But it's really just a facial capture sync. The volume. So the volume refers to the motion capture stage or space. This is essentially a studio stage over which is mounted up to 100 motion capture cameras on what's called the truss. As with green screen work, the volume will be as bare as possible with essential props or scenery represented by physical mock-ups. The floor is also divided into tape into a grid and will have a visible position reference marks pointed out on the floor. So this was Hari's idea, using a term in a sentence. Okay, everyone, we need you to get into the volume in 5, or can I have you in the volume in 5 is the proper way to use that. The truss, this is the big metal thing around a proper motion capture stage. You won't necessarily see this in a booth if you're doing facial capture. This is an important thing to know because you cannot touch the truss. The truss has so many cameras mounted on it that it gets calibrated every single shoot, and it's a long, arduous process. And if you like lean up against it, you will have to reset all those cameras. So it's like a super noob move to touch the truss.
Yeah, don't touch anything. But I mean, you should, actors definitely, I think, know this, and especially the actors we work with and all of you who are here, but everything in this world is very sensitive. And, if you're given a head camera, unless you are actually directed to tighten screws or move something, allow someone who's a tech to come and handle it, just because that can really change up the whole day, or you could mess up something, the continuity of something that's really important. So just, even though you'll want to like fidget with the thing on your head or fidget with your body, just try to ask somebody, is it okay if I do this first? Because there's somebody whose job it is to make sure that that stays in place.
Correct. Okay, a few more. So just like you're leading me in so nicely, head cam is what Hari was just talking about. This typically has a camera and or microphone mounted to it. There's usually a bright light that you may or may not have control over. So they might say at the beginning of each take, okay, actors, turn on your camera, turn on your lights, please. So they're not in your face in between takes. You also may have access to your microphone pack, your lav pack as well for the same purpose. Markers, these are the little dots and reflective balls on your suit. These are actually super expensive and surprisingly so. And so we do our best, again, not to touch and ruin these things. These are all placed very specifically among joint parts so that it can properly read onto your character. And again, those things get calibrated so we aren't getting in and out of your mocap suit very much during a day, usually like, in specific breaks. Suit and cap, you can't see a cap under here, but if they were not using a head cam on this, then she would wear the same material and a cap. The colors typically represent size. That's the only thing. Some actors who have done a lot of motion capture have custom suits. And that's because if they're doing a ton of it, it just makes more sense for them to have one that's specially fit for them.
Or if they have a specific body type.
Yes, or size. Props. These are often made out of PVC, wood, cardboard. There are things that are tracked and not tracked. So if you see markers on the prop, then it's a prop that's going to also be used in the game or the project. If you don't have markers on it, then it's just being used as placeholder to give the actor weight or placement for something. For T-pose. So this is the basic start pose that allows your tracking to stop and start at the same position. Think of it like a 2-pop in film. It may not be necessary in every shoot. It's something you'll be instructed upon when to do it, and it's not necessary to do on audition material. A walk cycle. So this is like probably the thing that makes people the most confused in an audition setting. We need to see how your body naturally moves. So a walk cycle is basically just seeing your natural walk from one side of the frame to the other. We may want you to come towards the frame. We may want you to go across the back. But being able to see your entire body, including your feet, all the way to above your head, even if you're outside, is really important. Not having bulky clothes on that blocks that are seeing your posture and whatnot. After we see your basic, then we may ask for a character walk. But the basic is definitely where we want the baseline. So it's really important for you to know what walking and running looks like for you and your pedestrian walk or like your super confident walk. And that just goes right into your idol, which I think there was a really funny TikTok that went around about like character video game idols where they're just sitting there like waiting for something to happen and they're like start moves. That's exactly it. You don't have to be breathing and moving, but the idol is the waiting position. It's the base move of the actor. So if your of your character. So if the character is known to be a frustrated teen, it may be her like relaxed position may have her arms at her side, just crossed or at her side, but it's something just standing there. Okay, that was a lot of talking. Sorry, we're almost done here. Okay, well, relevant I know, like likeness scans and modeling. So this is another one that Hari had me add in here, specifically because it's something that we've started looking for a lot more. We may not need an actor, or let me rephrase that. When you're doing performance capture, you may be asked to do everything from scans to the motion capture. And so that's what to the performance capture. So that's what you're seeing here. This is Kirsten Day. We did a 3D scan of her face on this right-hand side here. And then when she was on the performance capture stage, she had a camera. So she was doing the facial capture. She also had a suit on. And as you can see, her character looks pretty much exactly like her. And so that's the full process. A lot of times you will only be asked to do one part of this process. It may be, we just want to scan your face because we want that face to be the model. It may be that we want your body because we need that specific body type to be the model. We may do just a facial capture. We may do just motion capture. We may do performance capture. There's every other combination in between. So those are the kind of elements involved. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second before we get there and just double check the chat. Everybody loves dogs. Yeah, don't touch it. Got it. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, awesome.
No touching.
Rochelle, I see your how much does height matter? And that is a very relevant question that I would like to answer at the end. So please, let's make sure that I don't miss that.
We'll touch on that for sure.
And we're almost at the end here. Okay, so we wanted to just really quickly address where we're looking and representation for motion capture and performance capture specifically. For performance capture, VO agencies typically are handling these unless it's something that is outside of what they have, but we'll typically go to them first. And the main reason is because we may need an actor to do 3,000 lines of dialogue in a voiceover booth, as well as 10 scenes on a mocap stage. So that voiceover element is just as important, if not more important than what we get off the mocap stage. We can always get a stunt actor on the mocap stage. But those 3,000 lines need to happen. So we typically start at the VO agencies. There are probably 10 to 12 agencies that cast most of the things, but really the top 5 have house most of the voiceover and animation working VO actors. That is changing a little bit more as post-COVID and actors are able to kind of be everywhere, and as well as people are being more authentic with their casting. It's expanding out beyond just those 5, but
yeah,
just being realistic about it.
just to say, if you aren't getting these calls, but you are interested in them, that's something you definitely want to tell your agent, because perhaps they're just kind of scanning over it and thinking that's not your forte. So if it is something you're interested in, or you have a very special skill like fencing or archery or something that's going to be really relevant in here, but Julia and I will go on to tell you that you don't need those to do it. But if this is something you want to do, it's a conversation your agent probably isn't automatically thinking. So tell them.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. And then beyond that, we do go to, well, that's on the next slide. I lied. I'm jumping ahead. Managers. So it has been told to me, because I don't work a ton with on-camera actors, or at least haven't in the past. A lot of on-camera actors have managers, but it is not typical to have a manager and an agent as a working VO actor. It's just not typical. It doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's just not typical. VO can be a very quick turnaround business. So unless you are doing a lot of on-camera work, it may be difficult for your VO agent to always be checking in with your manager on your schedule. And that's probably why it is that way.
Yeah. And who wants to give more money away?
That's another part of it. But I think
down the process is also a great reason.
Yeah. Union status and preference is important to consider when thinking about representation. Some agencies do handle non-union work, but some don't. And depending on where you're at and where you want to be, that is something to consider. Okay, so where we're looking, always Google. Always Google. If I know your name, the first place I'm going to put it in is Google. It's easier for me to get to your Instagram by Googling your name and Instagram than actually figuring out what your Instagram is. So just make sure your Google results are something that you understand about yourself. I will say that till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. It's great to have it's great to have a LinkedIn profile, even if it's just referencing it to your other actor profiles, because it has great SEO and it comes up when you Google it. Actors Access, Breakdown Services, Spotlight, Backstage. Those are all places that we will be looking or posting for performance capture. Mostly they will go on to the agent and manager breakdown services. But depending on the need for the role, we will expand out as far as we need to go to find who we need to find. And then finally, Instagram. If you do one social media, do this one. I love TikToks, but Instagram is really easy to search and find what you're looking for. It's not that you have to post often, just showing that you exist and doing things, all sorts of things, not work things. But also for performance capture, it's a really great way to show us what you look like and not just your headshots. Like Hari helps me cast on Instagram all the time.
And so check your spam boxes. Also, another thing that really is like, obviously 9 million people telling you all day that you could be a brand ambassador. How fabulous. But every once in a while, there's me in there going, do you want to be a game character? And we're going to scan your face, because sometimes I'm looking a lot on there for non-actors or people who fit a very specific type. And so I will reach out to them or my actor friends, but that I tend to have an easier communication with them. But if I'm cold calling you, technically, I'm going to go into your spam. So just check that thing every once in a while, clear it every few days, just to make sure.
For sure. Like, definitely do that.
You don't want to miss out, because these jobs, like, fast turnaround. We're casting today. We need you submitted by tonight, so we can pick tomorrow.
Always fast. Same with Breakdown, Actors Access. I do Actors Access model calls all the time for scannings, and if you haven't opened your Actors Access profile since 2011, I'm not going to send you one of the invites, but your listing shows up. So if you're on there, it shows up and you might get messages. So
does it show you if they haven't looked at since okay, keep it current, guys. I will too.
It doesn't say if you've changed anything, but I think it says like last login, so that we're not hitting up someone who doesn't check.
So don't have a crusty profile.
No crusty profiles. Okay, a note on training. So unfortunately, we don't have nearly enough training on motion capture. That's why you're all here today. And so while there are people starting to do classes, a mocap reel is not necessarily relevant for you if you just want to get into it here or there. If you're a stunt performer and you really want to add that, it may help, but it's not necessary. A movement reel, a dance reel, a stunt reel, weapons, on camera, all of those things will help inform us. So I don't think anybody needs to get too caught up on having a mocap reel. That said, anytime you can see a stage, it's awesome. So yeah, I would totally take advantage of any opportunities to get on a mocap stage, but it's more about, like, I think people get caught up in the idea of a reel and you don't necessarily need one.
I would jump in here to say I was surprised when I first joined into this industry, this sort of behind the scenes world that's so mysterious, how much the casting director does to cobble together how to pitch you. It really doesn't need to be something that's so extreme and so polished unless you are somebody who's making your life in mocap. But one of the things, it's like, have some TikToks on your Instagram of you doing some dances. If this is if that's mortifying to you, don't do it. That's me. But like, if you are cool with that because you're an actor and you want to show off how your body moves, this is for everybody. This is if you are not a stunt performer, but you're going to be one of the pedestrians walking down the street, or the drunk guy at the bar who says, just show us how you move. Show us your mouth moving, do some of those sync things. Like, TikToks are such a good way. Like, if I saw that on someone's Instagram, I'd be like, cool.
But we won't be on TikTok finding it.
No,
we'll find it on Instagram
because we're old.
Because we're old.
But I would genuinely be like, cool, they can do some good sync. That mouth is like hitting those things. And I could see them moving and acting or dancing or acting out a scene. Like, utilize all these like social media things, because all we need to do is just see a little bit of your body and how it moves, basically.
I'm not going to play any videos, but I did want to just highlight right here, this very middle one. There's a performance capture podcast that Victoria Atkin has done that's really, 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 really amazing. There's 3 seasons, I believe, and she's recording the 4th right now. I don't say it because I'm an episode on the 3rd season. Mm-hmm. I actually listened to all of the seasons and have learned quite a bit from it. So I highly recommend if you're interested in it all. It's a really great podcast.
And she's cool.
And that's it. So this is how you can get us. We are on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm going to close this presentation and get to questions.
Oh, let's address that first question, even though it was kind of a line jump by being in the chat. But I think height is important to address. Height, weight, body type, doesn't matter. Have a body, be a human. It all is okay.
Yeah, I think the way that I always put it is it creates opportunity. There are some times when we have height restrictions. Yes, I will have a rule where they say they can only be between 5'10" and 6 foot.
But you can't change that. So what are you going to do?
Exactly. Sometimes they'll go outside of it because someone is so amazing. I try to use my discretion, and if I know that someone is right for something, I'm not going to not send you in because of your, not send you in. I'm not going to not offer it because of your height. What I typically will do is either ask permission or just send it anyway with a caveat.
Yeah, but again,
you can't get in your head about it,
because
exactly.
It's nothing you can change. You'll be submitted for what you're right for. If you're great and you're showing us everything about you that makes you special and what you can do, and really the key, I think the most important thing for this is how natural are you when you're on camera. It's literally comes down to the same thing as like when you're on camera acting, you're like, what do I do with my arms all of a sudden? Now I'm here. Like, if the more you're in your body and comfortable and you know how to like just look like a person, doing what people do, then you can be submitted for these types of jobs. And it doesn't matter. By the way, I know you're wearing a tight bodysuit. You don't need to be super in shape. You don't need to be, a like weapons grade stunt performer. You can be a human being because they need to animate every type of body. And also, if you're great, like, they can also manipulate your body. A lot of times what they're scanning, they're changing with lots of animation and skins and whatnot.
Someone I see says I'm 6'8" and I'll never be able to do mocap. don't ever say never, because we have non-human characters as well, you know.
You could be a tree.
And also, if we end up casting a really tall main lead, someone that's 6'3", and then there's someone that's taller than them in the game, they will ask us to find tall people. So
you're an outlier, and you may not be like as frequent, but you might be an exact thing that, like, by the way, I'm like asking this right now, like, you have our emails, like, if you're 6'8", let us know, say hi, because there's a time when I will be asked for a 6'8" person, and I will be scanning every site like, oh my god, where is my person? So
totally.
Do us a favor, make it easy.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the Q&A, but I know we have a couple specific questions too in the chat, so I'm gonna just try to start with the Q&A and then go from there. So give us a second, guys. Sorry, folks, people, everyone. Okay, how do you like mocap resumes to be laid out? I'm typically not looking at a resume on a PDF. I'm typically seeing it on your website or actor service sites. That said, regardless, just understanding whether or not you have mocap experience is the baseline. It doesn't necessarily need to be, I've done all these 20 things. That's usually whether or not you get an audition, or whether or not a client requires someone has mocap experience is the first step, because they don't all require, but some do. And so if they do, I'll want to make sure that everybody I'm submitting has some kind of experience. It doesn't go further than that in terms of like whether you were a lead, whether you just did mocap versus performance capture. Otherwise, then we're just looking, are you a good actor? If you don't have mocap experience, I do look for theater on camera, some other things that show that you've done something other than voiceover. But if you don't have that, as long as, again, I can see samples of movement, face, work, then it's still going to potentially get you considered.
Yeah, don't get hung up on layout. At this point, it's a list. Like, just a list is really simple. Obviously, the more professional you make things look, it makes it easier for our eyes to process the information. But like, don't get hung up on the layout. It's like, do you have experience or do you not? And if you don't, what is the like relevant experience we can utilize to sell you?
Correct.
If you're right for the thing.
What movement experience do you recommend for mocap? I recommend martial arts, dance. My dog's in the background. Martial arts, dance, weapons training, fencing, sword play.
Learn miming,
improv,
learn anything. But improv is the most important thing you can do. And, you know, that's not movement based to your question, Nicholas, but the most important thing you can do is improv.
And just learning how to be flexible. But I think one of the hardest things for voice actors to do to transition is you've spent so much of your career learning how to put everything inside. You need to start moving and bringing those things back out. Theater. If you can get any kind of theater experience,
take up space.
I highly recommend it.
But another thing is mocap is an interesting, depending on the project, I will say. Some want it very theatrical and some want it so grounded and so natural.
Yes.
So, you know, being able to offer those two kind of options, is super important, because sometimes the one thing they will absolutely not want is if it feels like you're like, you know, performing for the rafters. So, you know, just making sure that you understand the tone of the thing.
That's for everything. That's for voiceover all the way through. The tone is so important. Okay, I believe we got that answer. What will body size hold you back from being able to do mocap, or is mocap work diverse for build? Totally diverse for build. I think, like Hari said, there may be less roles for someone that is very, very tall or very, very small, but as mocap grows, we're doing on more and more things. Also, face is not body, so facial capture is happening all the time in the mocap, in the VO booth. So I don't think that you should even let it cross your mind. If it's something you want to do, work on movement, work on acting, work on improv, and don't think about body size, shape,
be
athleticism.
in your body and be authentic in your body and whatever your body is. I will say, just like anything in the entertainment industry, of course, there's literally biases, and there's going to maybe be more things for people who fit certain body types, but we already know that, and we already all compete with that when we're acting anyway. So just be you, and like bring what you bring to the table, and be, you know, more importantly, a team player, and like easy to work with. And once people know you, they're not going to be thinking about those things anymore. They're going to be so excited to have you around. Being somebody who's easy to be around is better in this business than being somebody who has the right numbers and digits on paper. I swear to God, just get your first job. That's the key. But I will say the one thing that will hold you back in facial capture is Botox or anything that paralyzes your facial muscles. So think about that. If it's important to you to have it, you may not do facial capture work, because a lot of this is really important for us. So physically, that's the only thing.
Yes, all that. What do the auditions for mocap look like? So typically if I'll do a couple different explanations. For facial capture, we're going to ask you to do almost like selfie on a cell phone style, where you're right up here so I can see all the things. And then for motion capture and performance capture, mocap, we probably won't have any lines. It's probably just actions. I did a project a while back where it was just crowds. Mm-hmm. So we just needed people who were, it was like a concert crowd. So people who were clapping or cheering or like, yes.
Yeah, I've auditioned for those. And one of the things, again, we'll say it probably 5 times today, is like improv will help you so much, because you have to fill up the space, and you need to come up with actions and things, and they can't be like forced. It just needs to be natural. So improv and having those kinds of inspired ideas come to you, that's what they're hiring you for, not just your body, but also your mind, and how you're going to come up with creative ideas in the moment. It's like a big part of what they're looking for.
Yes, absolutely. And then performance capture is going to be a lot closer to an on-camera audition. The biggest thing is we do ask for specific framing sometimes. Depending on the type of the scene, you may or may not have actions already assigned. If you are auditioning for mocap or for performance capture and there are no actions, assign them yourselves. We want you to move. If it's a monologue and it's for performance or mocap, move throughout the whole monologue. Block it.
Yeah. Give us levels. Let's see you stand,
dynamics,
sit,
yes.
If you can jump, if it makes sense for you to twirl. I mean, as much, don't be crazy. Unless your character's crazy.
Fair. So that's typically what those mocap auditions will look like. Depending on the client, they may just ask for reels and headshots for a first round, and then decide who should audition from there. Otherwise, in a lot of cases, they'll allow me to drive, and I will do, a lot of times on breakdown, I'll do castings. I'll do relatively wide, 25 to 100 actors to do a self-tape, and then narrow it from there, and Julia, potentially get a callback.
Are they doing callbacks in person or okay,
Zoom?
So everything's Zoom now.
Zoom,
I haven't
callbacks.
seen those yet.
And so what's really important for those is just making sure that you can be heard and seen well. But we also recognize it's Zoom, and we're relying a lot on your movement from your self tapes. And for the callback, it's a lot more of like the facial expressions and the closer stuff and the emotional stuff, and to see if you can take direction.
Get comfortable on your home camera and computers, man.
Yep.
It's going to be the new thing forever.
Okay. So in regards to PCAP, for the self-tapes you've done in the past, it stresses that the use of the actor's body is important to show in the scene, but I find sometimes it makes me feel like I'm moving extraneously. Do you have any tips for what they're looking for? In addition to from a TV or film self-tape. Okay, so yes, I think exactly what she was talking about. It's the small actions, and I think that blocking it is what really can make the difference. So it's everything from picking up the cup of coffee to holding it here to having it here, and like, you know, all these things are very subtle, but still add to that character, whether or not you have a specific like side lean when you're talking about a certain thing, or you walk over to a window when you're talking about taking over the world, or what. Those little tiny actions are what make you stand out from being frozen. We want you to use the entire space. We want you to come up closer to the camera and go back and just make it feel like it's alive.
Craig, I feel you on that. I do want to say you're going to feel self-conscious. Like it feels like moving extraneously just because like it's such a minimal thing that you're being asked to do. And then like each movement feels so, the key is the same with wearing the suit. You're going to have to get out of your head at some point. Like it's kind of the being in your head that's going to wind up being the bigger problem. It's more about how can you just be in your body and be inhabiting exactly what the character's doing. And if you're doing that, you probably aren't overdoing it. So whenever you feel that sense, kind of take a moment. This is where I'm going to be a hippie about it, but drop into your body, feel your body more, and then kind of just inhabit the character. Think about what the character really wants. Don't think about Craig moving on camera and how it looks, because I think that's always 100% going to take you outside of what we're looking for.
Oops, almost spilled coffee on my keyboard. Woo! Okay. Next
oh, there was one other thing that made me think of, which was touching your face. Just, be careful of touching your face ever. In auditions, again, be natural, do what feels right for the character. But if you can get in the habit of really avoiding this, because that's one thing that, like, if you're doing performance capture and you have a facial camera, or if you're doing facial capture, like, you can never touch your face. A lot of times touching your body won't be okay too, because you'll mess with sensors and things like that. So the more you can handle props without actually like disturbing things, you'll get into the habit of doing that. And then with facial capture, licking your lips really doesn't work for animation. It'll mess with how the teeth come out and everything. So just practice kind of not doing things that will interfere with the field of what the camera is picking up. And those are,
and with that, facial jewelry, facial hair, glasses, if you have any of those things, it's perfectly fine. You can keep them in your audition. You just need to slate that you're willing to remove them for whatever. You can either remove them for your audition if you can go into contacts, if you don't need the glasses, if you if you can move the septum piercing up so you don't see it, whatever it may be, or the facial hair if you can shave. That said, if you can't, or you're keeping it for something but it'll be gone before, just again, put it in your slate, because those things for facial capture, we definitely need all of that, those distractions away, so that we can get the full capture of the face. Same with hoods and baggy clothing, things like that. Just athletic, like leggings or tighter t-shirts, tank tops are all great for just seeing posture. Are the acting sites, Actors Access, LA Castings, good places to find performance capture auditions? Yes, definitely. More so obviously through the managers and agents, but we do post on Actors Access. We do post on LA Castings for motion capture and performance capture jobs. This is a question about union and non-union. There are union and non-union jobs across all of performance and facial capture. Technically, motion capture, facial capture, where we're not recording voice, is not a covered service, if you will. It's not in any, motion capture is not in any agreement yet. So there's a lot of nuances there, but the short answer is yes, if you are non-union, you can still get opportunities to audition and be in AAA games.
Some AAA games are not.
Do you think next gen systems are pushing PCAP above all others? Are they going to work in tandem until they naturally evolve?
Oh, Marco.
No, I think there are games that will never have capture. It just doesn't make sense for them to have capture. Especially like a Genshin Impact is never going to have any kind of capture. Whether or not you call that a AAA is depending on what you are defining those especially as. But that said, the more cinematic games definitely are doing more and more performance capture. That said, there's a lot of technology involving, and there's a lot of stuff that you can actually do in your booth at home, not necessarily you, but companies are sending kits out. They're sending some of these like cheaper technology suits out where you can actually do stuff at your own house for them. So it is getting cheaper and easier to capture, and more games are using it, but it will never make sense for all games.
And if we can figure that out and that really becomes a thing, it'll be something we'll definitely teach a class on. Like, here's when you get the suit, put it on, and here's
totally,
how. So
yeah.
if that is really gonna start taking over, we'll figure out how we can get that info to you, Marco, and everybody.
Yeah, there's definitely not a ton of stuff happening at home for those things, but it's starting. And the most common thing that will happen when you're recording from home is that they just want facial reference. So they just want to be able to give the animator a video of the actor performing the lines for reference, so that they can use that when they're animating the face, and it's easier for them to not have to think of how your eyebrow is going to move if they can just see it.
Okay, Marco's 3 questions. These are really quick. Wait, Marco, really quick, use the space. Don't worry. In PCAP, if you're doing an audition, don't do it in your booth. Use the space. The vocal quality and the sound quality. I know you love your mic and you spend so much money on treating that room, but probably seeing your body move is going to be way more important than that sound quality. So give yourself the space to move. Yes. And yes, one person could do the mocap and you could just do voiceover. The way that it happens is literally every single time so different. You could be syncing another actor's voice. Julia could do some talking. She could be going like this, and I'm just listening in one ear, and then I'm saying the lines out the other, and they're just capturing my face doing Julia's voice, and somebody else is on a mocap stage acting it out with their hands and body.
So someone else got scanned.
So there's 4 different people making that one character happen and move, plus
the animators. So that's a good question generally, Marco. Just for auditions in general, if you don't have room inside, go outside. If it means that you do inside a close-up on the scene and then outside a further view of the scene so that we get the options, then you do that. One of I don't know if Elijah is here today, but thank you, Elijah. He had an amazing setup where he had his earbuds going through for his auditions. So even though he was in like further away from the camera, you could hear him really nicely through the earbuds.
Oh, you like the earbud?
Yeah,
right?
we don't care. I don't care if there's earbuds in, if that means I can hear you clearly versus you shouting from across the place.
Don't
but
worry about booth quality voice for performance
auditions.
capture.
Correct. Or your living room. I mean, obviously try not to have shit everywhere, but we expect to see your living room and your living space when we're getting these.
We will not call it a shithole like that one guy said while that actor was auditioning.
Oh my gosh.
How dare he?
Okay, so those are done. Any advice on what classes or organizations to go to in order to gain experience in mocap?
I know one.
The Help Network. Yeah, so we're trying to educate as much as we can on this stuff because we know there's not a ton. I would look up motion capture stages in your area, whether you're in LA or elsewhere, find out where they are, what they're doing, watch their reels, look at job listings. And then the Performance Capture podcast is super, super, super helpful because she goes through all these different job positions. And so it'll have you better understand like who's going into making that day happen.
Is it Shara? I would say also just there is no special skill set for mocap. Mocap is being a performer, and then it's doing it within some technical restrictions. And that is what you will learn on the first day of the job, unfortunately. But you can get as much information as you can gain from classes like this and podcasts like this. With the training you should be working on is acting training. The training you should be working on is movement and body training, anything that gets you in your body. If it's Pilates, if it's ballet, whatever you like, that helps you be more embodied and then improv. And we have an improv class coming up that you guys can check out. Brian Palermo, who's a groundling, and like he's going to be doing like a next level improving, because you really don't want to be taking base level improv. You want to be like getting into making scenes happen on the fly, because a lot of times you're a character who's in the stands at a ball game. There's no scene for you. You have to kind of make the scene, especially so we can watch it. It's enjoyable, because at the end of the day, we're watching 9 million people go like this. So, you know, maybe build a scene, make it funny, make it interesting. So yeah, that's a good class.
Okay, we're going to try and pound through all these questions. I know. So how often do you use former dancers for mocap, or is it a desired skill? We use it all the time. Dancers know their bodies. Perfect example is I had a character that was like non-human, ethereal, and they said her movement was balletic. So she was like kind of graceful across the stage and kind of almost like floating. Julie Nathanson did a role where she had to learn how to ride on a hoverboard and rode the entire stuff on a hoverboard, because it wasn't like a human. Yeah. Anyway, so it is definitely a desired skill, and I would definitely list that in your skill sets.
How do we label it on Actors Access?
How would you label the casting call for motion capture? Would it be voiceover or something else? I always put it under video games. That's how I label it. Not under voiceover, under video game as the type.
Marco, can we be anywhere in the world?
Okay, so unfortunately, most of it's happening in LA. Secondary, there are mocap stages all over the world. So yes, you just have to find them. There are mocap stages in Poland. There are mocap stages in Ukraine, in Japan. So getting close to it is just about finding where they're doing the work. This is not like, you're not looking for a Hollywood casting agent. You're looking for like, where is the technical place, like a VFX house. It's like the digital domain of Poland, where they're making the mocap there, and that's where they would need the actors.
Yeah, but if that's your goal, then your best bet then is to make a relationship with that stage and possibly get hired to work for the stage as a PA or something like that, so that you're one of their go-tos, because you can't rely on the fact that you'll get cast enough to live there and work at that one stage. That's the thing about LA, which is what we constantly have to battle with when it comes to VO and home booths and everything. People hope that the jobs will expand, and they might, but right now the majority are here. So if you're trying to make your bread and butter, you're going to need to be somewhere where you get more opportunities, and that's
but yes, it is expanding, so it's changing. I did just post on my Instagram stories a job posting for a mocap stage for a PA. Sony is hiring a PA,
and that is a great starting place, and we know somebody who started there, and you know, it's that's the thing that we can't teach. Just like I was saying before, it's like you can have all of this experience, but the one thing you're going to have to learn on the job, unless you go in and do some actual hands-on experience with the tech, is the tech.
Okay, I went to school for acting, currently training under a voiceover coach. Mocap's what I want to get into. To get the appropriate training, what studios would you recommend? I was referred to PCB, wanted to know if there were more out there. There are not a ton. And again, what Hari said before, the training is the actor training. I think rather than focusing on the training with the mocap, I would just find out who's directing mocap and make sure that you're on their radar, because directing and casting mocap, because if you're already doing the acting training, then it's more about the networking and making sure that you're getting the auditions.
Yeah, and hashtag mocap and stuff like that in any posts that are relevant. Hashtag mocap in LA on IG. We talk about this all the time in our branding classes, but you'll have no idea how much I will look up Puerto Rican mocap actress. Swear to God, look it up, because I get asked for very specific, authentic people. And it's, if you have a specific skill set, you know, motion capture, ballet, I'll find you. Hashtag yourself.
I'm eligible to join Actors Equity. Is there a benefit to joining for this work? Theater work is great training for mocap. I think that if it allows you more opportunity to get those jobs, absolutely. That said, it doesn't have any bearing on what we do. What search terms are you looking for? So yeah, when I'm searching on Google, it's typically because I already know your name. And then I'm trying to collect materials to either analyze myself or give to a client to look at. Okay. LinkedIn is the same thing. It will just come up when I'm looking for your name. So if I'm, for example, Malcolm, if I look up Malcolm Matthews actor, because there may be 20 other Malcolm Matthews, then I want to make sure that your LinkedIn comes up, your Instagram comes up on that Google search result. Right. The Instagram hashtags specifically are going to be more like mocap actor, mocap in LA, mocap actor, Puerto Rican VO actress, Indian VO actress, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Or do the mocap hashtag and then make sure you geotag so that I can see the city that you're based in. And if you are not based in LA, but you are willing to come here to get a mocap job because you're dying to get on the volume, let us know that you will work local. And if you know what local hire is, that's just saying you'll fly yourself and put yourself up. If you have friends in LA and it's worth it for you to say, I'm going to come visit my aunt and uncle or my friends, and I'm going to get my first mocap job so that I can have that on my resume, then you can definitely put in LA. It just don't tell me when I reach out to you, oh, you want to come work in LA? And then you say, well, can you fly me? It's like, that was the deal. But that's also an option if you're out of state, but really committed to doing this.
Just stage experience equal mocap experience. It's very helpful. And 90% of my clients will hire without mocap experience, as long as the acting is there. Yes. How do people typically start? Is the first step to contact a mocap studio? People typically start by having opportunity from another related job. I mean, I would say that if you're already getting a bunch of VO jobs and your agent and or casting people know that you're interested in performance capture or motion capture, then that is a lot of the way that people start. But also contacting, mocap stages or training groups. I know there's like Terry Notary and Richard Dorton have both movement groups that they work on, and offering and working within the stages or with related professionals is a lot of how people are starting.
I would say look up groups. There's Motion Capture Society on Facebook. Join these groups. Don't be the actor who's like, hi, I'm an actor, hire me. But be the actor who sits back and watches and learns who the players are and respectfully reaches out to them. If you have some time to give and you can do, 20 hours a week, helping out, and you want to maybe be an assistant when you get hired, it's sort of like, it is, I've done many jobs in my life that were the secret jobs that not everybody knows exist, but they're sort of utility players that they need actors to do. And this is one of those jobs, but a big part of it is remembering that you're a utility performer. You are not there to be the star of the show. You're very much there to be a team member. And so learning how to be almost like a crew member, it's almost like being on a crew. You're ready to go when it's your turn. You're always paying attention. You're always focused, and you're not like making it kind of like about you. And it's not a place where they're going to be like, what are your needs? Oh my God. You're a focused crew member who's ready to go right at the moment. And then all of a sudden this creativity gets to come out in the play and all of the things that you're excited about doing mocap for. It's very much about knowing when and where to interject that self and that personality. It's when it's time to roll. So if you can like hang in these groups and be just another professional there to learn from the other people and make networking contacts, those are good places for you. Just make sure that you're using that properly and not standing out in the wrong way.
Next up, hashtags we already answered. The casting process the same for an on-camera scripted? Breakdowns are sent out, reps submit, and then you invite to audition? Yes, it is exactly the same. And we get lots of submissions from people that don't fit the thing that we asked for, and we have to comb through them. So if your reps are submitting you or you are submitting you on Breakdown or Actors Access, make sure that you put in the notes if you have mocap experience or if you have theater experience or any of the things that we're talking about here that are highlights. Make sure they add that in the notes, because that's the easiest way to fish through.
Yes. And to just speak on standing out in the wrong way, if something is very authentic and they're asking for somebody very authentic, do not submit yourself unless you are actually that thing. You know, if we need a Korean American, please don't submit yourself unless you're Korean American. Unfortunately, sometimes the companies that we work for are getting very, very specific. And especially, I hate that I have to say this, but don't submit yourself if don't identify as non-binary or trans just because you know you're a good actor. That's not enough, and it's taking up space and it makes you stand out in a bad way. So don't do it.
Correct. Will union characters be cast for a non-union actor in mocap? I don't know what that means, but typically it's one or the other. Typically. Out of curiosity, how often do you get calls for women over 5'8"? More often than you would think. And it's very hard. That is very often because of eyeline. If they cast, like the perfect example is if there's like a lead of 4 actors and it's 3 men and 1 woman or some other combination, and they've already cast 6-foot actors, they're not going to want a woman less than 5'8" because of eyeline, and it makes it really hard for them to adjust. So yes, often.
And also, not to mention, a lot of these characters are fantasy characters. A lot of the women are strong, powerful kind of Amazonians. Like, you know, it's being a larger woman and can actually really help you be a unique commodity.
Totally. How many people will be in the volume at one time? So I don't know now, post-COVID or in mid-COVID, so less, but there's at least 4 people that are actually running the capture equipment. There's usually 2 people dedicated to the facial capture equipment. There's usually a recording engineer. There's usually an assistant. There's a PA. There's a director. It's like a film set. There's a lot of people there. When you're auditioning for it, there will be typically casting and then an animator and a creative writer, director, some other type of person. And one will be judging your voice and one will be judging your movement so that they can both have an eye on those things.
And lots of things are being done remotely, so don't be surprised if it's nobody and you're alone.
Right, that's true. Besides Instagram, online, where else can I place myself to get noticed, if anywhere? I think it's focusing on the acting. Twitter, I guess, but really it's focusing on the acting and networking with people hiring. Skills Hub is a great place to coach and to meet with actors and directors who are doing things all the time as well. What are some of your personal favorite video games or movies that have amazing mocap? So the Last of Us series and Uncharted series are known for having incredible motion capture. I personally loved working on Medal of Honor VR. It was incredibly moving. There's an insane cast, and there's a lot of that footage on YouTube still.
I like what is it?
Oh yeah, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. She was actually
that was the coolest thing.
Content editor over at Ninja Theory, and they had her do some of the facial capture, and she ended up being so good. She's now like plays the role fully.
You can see the behind the scenes on YouTube. Just look up Hellblade making of, and there's just so much about that, and that's very cool. And it's very much what I was kind of saying about like being able to be a part of that crew is sometimes more relevant experience. Obviously she wound up being this incredible actor who played this hugely internal role about mental illness and all of this amazing stuff, but also she was there and knew what was required of her, and that goes a long way.
Does having physical disabilities hinder an actor from getting cast? It depends. I want to say no, but it depends.
Depends on the disability.
It depends on the disability.
But if they are looking for somebody who is disabled,
exactly,
which more and more, that's going to be the request, is that we want an authentic person. So, I mean, disability is a huge broad spectrum term. And if you're neurodivergent or something like that, there's all kinds of like, you know, specific challenges that will exist for you personally. And if you want to email us, we have a lot of disability resources. We're very interested in this. And so we can have a more realistic conversation about it, because it's kind of something so specific. But I will just say, we had a character who was an amputee. They wanted an authentic person. we found this great actor model technically, and it was a joy for us to help represent the character authentically, and that's who's going to be in the game. So please don't be anonymous. If you really want to know, send us an email and we can have a conversation.
Yes. The top 5 agencies I referred to earlier, if you go to iwannabeavoiceactor.com, there's a whole section on voiceover agencies, as well as on Gravy for the Brain I think. I don't necessarily want to call out the ones I use specifically for both my own purposes, but also because I don't think that's necessarily fair. But there is a lot of lists of about like 12 that are being used constantly that are on a lot of these VO sites. And I'm referring to LA agencies specifically. There are a ton of regional agents and agents throughout New York and etc. There's a ton of managers. Once you get onto breakdown services, we start opening into the wild, wild west, if you will, of people that are involved in the process.
And we're only one faction of the whole thing. So we only know what we work on. And there's a whole world outside of us too.
Commercial for getting an agent, commercial demo has to come before video game interactive. Generally, my experience is that true for all around for those mocap opportunities. I think they are looking for actors, and I think that they're all human, and they're all willing to make caveats happen if you're the right person. So generally maybe that's the case, but I'm not entirely sure, especially because I don't know what the departments look for in terms of the spread across their various like commercial. I only know about games. Sorry, Marco. If you are looking for both voice and performance capture in an audition tape, of course we try our best to balance out, but since voice work often seems exaggerated in real life situations, what do you suggest we prioritize? Really good question. I think that making sure that it's clear and that we can hear you okay is the goal. We do not expect that it to sound like it was in your VO booth.
Earbuds have a microphone? Are you're not talking about the ones with the, okay, because Julia likes the microphone on these ones.
No, I even the little one, okay.
Those have good mics.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The any kind of wireless earbuds can help in those situations, because then you can get the sound from from closer. And there are some pretty cheap lavs now, so if you're doing a lot of them, it may be worth it. That said, I would definitely prioritize the shot, and then if you need to do like a close-up or something for something really dramatic at the end, just to supplement because the sound wasn't great because he had to go outside, then that's what you do.
Yeah. I would say the wireless is probably better because you're going to hear a lot of like rustling and things as you're moving. And so that could be annoying, but don't spend $300 if you're getting like one performance capture audition a year. Like just do a really great job with your body and, do as good a recording as you can do.
And we are starting, if VO is a really big part of the role, we are starting to ask sometimes for a VO audition and a PCAP audition.
I got one of those recently.
It's not ideal. We don't like to have to make you do more, but it is very telling.
Well, it was just an audition that's just VO, and they said for PCAP. So I figure the PCAP part would be in the callback.
Potentially. Yeah, and then sometimes they just forget and they don't give you all of the stuff. Yeah, I know, it's funny.
I didn't do it because it had a hard accent.
For self-tapes, is it distracting to have furniture items, whatever the background? I know for on camera, they like to have neutral. We are very, very open. I am very, very open to backgrounds. I expect it's probably going to be in your living room. I expect it might be out in a park. I expect it might be in your garage. It's more of like the clutter than anything else that I would try to kind of point towards something that isn't going to mute your actions, but it's not that big of a deal.
And don't be weird and don't do it if it distracts you, but sometimes a good prop goes a long way. We had somebody in one of our classes use a vacuum hose as a sword, and it was awesome, but he didn't treat it like it was vacuum hose. He very much treated it like it was a sword with respect and with weight and all of those things. So if you are going to use a prop, make sure you commit to that prop because it might actually take away from your audition.
Do you recommend that a U.S. actor subscribes to spotlight.com? I don't recommend that off the top of my head. I don't use it typically. I don't know if somebody else might have a different answer to that, but I don't think that you need to do that.
This one,
I know. Will the next God of War game after the next God of War game be cast by the Help Network? Probably not, no. Sony does their own casting. Is the improv class virtual? Yes. And does it include character work? Yes. I think it does. I don't know if that it specifically calls it out, but I believe that's like one of the principles.
The principles of improv, and especially groundlings level improv, and how that they attack it is always from a character standpoint. So yes, you cannot. And Brian Palermo is a former groundling, so no, current groundling. But they're always going to come from what is the point of view of the character more than building the scene, as opposed to some other improv groups.
Okay, we're almost there. What kind of COVID protocols are mocap studios taking? Tests, lots of tests, more tests, understudies, and then tests.
And even masks. I've seen people wearing masks if they're not doing facial capture. You can be in your suit acting it out and still having your mask on.
Correct. But a lot of them are under the same SAG protocols for on-camera work.
Yeah, you'll definitely need a negative test, and
you don't have to put that you're vaccinated in your profile. It will be a question and or part of the process, although I think SAG is still relying on tests more than anything. I may have missed this, but how can we stay in touch with you best? I believe Han put it in the chat, but both of us are our first names at helpnet.com. So Julia at helpnet, Hari at helpnet. You can sign up for my casting database on my website, juliabscasting.com. You can book me on Skills Hub. You can book Hari on Skills Hub. You can take classes with us at the Help Network. You can hang out with us for free on Twitch. We try to remain as accessible as possible. Please know that it does take us time to get back to you. If we haven't gotten back to you in a couple weeks, you can try again.
And follow our socials so you know about our Twitch streams. We have a show called Clear the Doom, where we can teach you a little bit about the mindset of success when you're approaching a very competitive field.
Yay! And then what for auditions? It sounded like you said it's better to wear tight-fitting clothes. Yeah, it is. Just athletic clothes, comfortable, athleisure is fine. Just not anything too bulky. We want to be able to see the shape of your shoulders and your posture and things like that. No hoods. We as actors assume things would be similar, like self-taste. Thanks for clarifying. Yay, you're welcome.
Thank you all for coming. Okay, we went a little over.
I know we did. I think we did it though. I think we got through.
Good luck, everyone. This is an expanding industry. There's going to be more and more opportunities. So what we talk about now is like one tiny fraction of probably what's coming. So the best thing that you can do, honestly, is prepare yourselves as actors and as people working within your body and being comfortable with the way that your body moves and just letting it do what it does, even when it's being kind of scrutinized or captured on camera.
Okay, there's a few more in here. I'm going to try to grab for 2 seconds. Which is, when auditioning for PCAP, are we allowed to use our own environment? Yes. Solid colored backdrop is also fine.
If you have an empty space or like a clear space, use it, please, by all means. But like, you also don't have to freak out if your couch is there or, your dog or whatever. Just make sure that it's clear and we can watch you do what you do.
There's a book recommendations for theater games for the lone actor by Viola Spolin. And now I'm going to write that down.
She's a classic improv teacher.
Would mocap this is a really good question, Xanthi, thanks for asking it. Would mocap auditions be silent? So you don't need to be silent in your audition, but we would not be recording, or if we're recording, it'll be for reference. So depending on the action for like the crowd stuff that I did, people would cheer.
Please cheer. It's weird if you don't though. It's like odd. I think they should make some noise if they're making noise.
It's weird if you go, yeah, but if it's like running, no, you don't have to overemphasize if it's like across the back.
But if you're running, don't try to be like, like panting. Like if you're panting, let's hear you pant. It's okay.
Is there a way to practice PCAP if we bought our own face cam? No, you know what? I mean, yes, technically you could, but what I would do is literally just record your face and play it back and look at your facial expressions.
Do what Camille Tommen did for one of our classes, which we'll have her back, but she did an amazing thing, and you can see me in my outfit for it. But like, we put on bike helmets, we put on tight fitting like onesies or whatever you had in the house, fanny packs. Always, like, you might have a mic pack or something attached to you that is like, has a lot of like cords and wires and stuff. So like, try putting yourself in awkward and uncomfortable outfits, like a ski suit or something, and then have yourself doing the actions that we talked about earlier, like maybe acting out a scene from your favorite movie, or, you know, doing some of your stunts if you do stunts or dancing. Just getting used to feeling like really strange and out of your comfort zone is good.
And I'm really glad that I scrolled down, because Carrie Burnens asked a really important question. What do you all think of people mocapping people that aren't their race? Example, white mocapping blacks, etc. This is a very relevant topic. It is something that happens way too often still, because of what Hari was saying, the utility of people being around. They swap in and out all the time. We had a situation where Hari got to actually speak up and make sure that that wasn't the case. But it is definitely a problem that we're actively working against. One of the bigger issues as well, just being super frank, is that the technology is not being tested on enough skin colors. And so it's not only that the opportunities aren't coming, but then when they do come, the technology isn't working as well on darker skin tones because they haven't tested on it. It's bullshit. We're working on it the best we can. But the more people who, as Hari put it, don't insert themselves in those auditions where they shouldn't be, and then the more that we can all speak up when we're seeing those things happen, the better, because it definitely is still commonplace to have people mocap against race.
And so, okay, this is just a great point to end on also, is when we talk about volunteering your services with these companies, obviously do your research, know exactly what that company does. There's a lot of people who are going to look like they're in mocap, but maybe they sell suits or they do something totally different. But do your research. If you find companies who do make the cameras for head cameras, if you find people who do any kind of the creation of this technology, and you want to offer your services to get them a wider skin tone range, it's something we work on as offering through our company. So we may be reaching out to some actors to get an entire skin tone range, but it's really like, you know, just say, hey, I have a very unique skin tone. If you guys haven't tested, I would love to get some time in the helmet, and I'd be happy to come in and do a face over someday. It's really something, the least they can do is say no, but you'd be doing them a big favor. So, and us as directors, because we want to work with more people, and we don't want to be told that we can't hire certain actors because of something like that. It's just too unfortunate if that happens.
Technology biases, yay. But I'm really glad you brought that up, Carrie. Thank you. And I think, you know, making sure that we all have integrity when submitting ourselves is a great place to start as well. Okay, we went a little bit over. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, everybody. You can always get in touch with us. Please check out our upcoming classes. If you check out the Help Network /entertainment-academy.
This is a big question really quick off the back of the race comment. Who would the actor go to if they were asked to perform a role they weren't comfortable with? Talk to your director.
Talk to your director. Casting.
And you can do it privately. You don't have to make a big thing about it. In fact, probably please don't. Just go to your director and say, can I have a minute with you? And unfortunately, a lot of the time you're going to be mic'd up. You're going to be pretty public. So make sure that you know, or you can even have your reps reach out to them. Sometimes you can call your agent and say, something's going on here. Do you mind calling the director? This has happened to me. I do not mind. I want to hear from you.
Yes.
Especially
in these remote settings.
Yes.
It's really hard to feel like you have the support. So just know that even if we're across the world or across the Zoom, that were reachable, accessible. The director is always the first place to go. If they make you uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, go to casting. If we're ever involved, you can always reach out to any helper. And yeah. Okay, thank you all. Please check out our webinars, classes, all the things. Follow us on all the things. We'll do this again.
Thank you all for being here. This is huge. You guys are awesome.
Yay, happy Sunday.
Bye.